If you've ever wondered how to handle relationships with a toxic or manipulative component, well, gray rocking is going to be your best friend. Gray rocking is an amazing technique, and I want to talk to you about it because it's going to help you definitely in the long run. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It is your girl, Lori, and I hope that today I'm back from a week-long vacation. I wanted to make sure not to miss any podcasts. I hope I had a great time. So I let you know, I hope I've had a great time. I enjoyed myself, so we're going to pretend I did, and we're here today. And I cannot wait for this topic. So I've been gray rocking for years. It's just not got that name, but in psychology, it's been around, and in human behavior, it's been around, and it's more, I want to say it's like all the craze, but it's actually a good craze. So I want to go into that. And the idea of a gray rock is, it honestly could be like a white rock, but it's titled gray rock. And a gray rock is, if you see a gray rock out there, it just sits. Like the rock isn't yelling at you. The rock doesn't care. You can get upset. You can get pissed off. The rock is just the rock. It's not going to give you an interaction. So that's basically the theory behind the name. And I am doing a good Patreon with a great worksheet to kind of give you a place to go and a place to start, because it'll go deeper as to why you're resistant. And we're going to talk a lot about that here. But if that is your jam, jump over to Patreon, patreon.com/The Positivity Experience. So I really want to talk to you about it. And as I was said to you in the beginning, it's a technique, and the technique is to handle manipulation, toxicity, toxic behaviors by not reacting. Now, if you follow any of my socials, if you are a client of mine, I will drill this into your head so hard, because it's so important that you understand the benefits of the gray rocking, but also to understand the benefits of non-reactivity, right? I told you, once you work through the insecurity and you start to have security, you're going to realize this is all based in their stuff. When you react, you are, number one, reacting out of insecurity. You don't have confidence. And that's okay. Like, I'm not saying it in a negative way. It's the awareness. Like, I've been there, right? I was super reactive. Oh my goodness gracious. If you looked up reactivity, if you looked up fight for no reason, if you looked up at always be combative, there would have been a big old picture of me with a giant smile and probably a middle finger too, because that was my protective mechanism when I wasn't good with me. It's just a fact. So if you find yourself getting in reactive mode, and every time somebody says something to you, or they get a little manipulative, or they get passive aggressive, or they smear I'm telling you, a smear campaign, let it go. Let it go. Because if someone is smearing you, and they may, when you start gray rocking, when you start setting boundaries, okay? Not everybody's gonna like this. Because for a long time, they could benefit from having a certain level of control over you, or a certain blah, blah, blah. And now they don't have it. So if they lose control over you, they want to work with the people around you to control that narrative. But as hard as it may be, see, you're under this illusion, and it is an illusion, that if you don't react, they're winning. They are winning when you react. You got to know that. A gaslighter is not going to listen to you and be like, oh my God, now I see. You know what? I see that side. No, that is not what's going to happen. They don't care. And the more that you're combative, the more that they are garnering that level of control. So the concept is be boring and non-reactive like a gray rock. What does this do? It does. It reduces manipulative behavior, and manipulators will lose interest after a while. Not in the beginning. So they may hit you with one thing, and then you gray rock them. And now they're going to try to cut you a little bit deeper, right? So they know some buttons to push, because you've displayed this now. You've exposed your buttons. So they're going to hit every one of them. And they're going to try, and they're going to try. But see, this is where the boundaries comes in. You have to realize what goes on around you, especially if you're an adult or whatever. And I don't mean at work. I'm talking about personal relationships. Well, work too, but I'm talking about personal relationships. When you allow something, it's going to continue. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter if you didn't know how not to allow it, or you're a people pleaser. That's okay. Just It is, because you got to know where to heal it. But just keep in mind that that behavior has been allowed by them. So they're going to hit every single button, and then they're going to try to hit your button by talking to other people. But after a while, if you're not reactive, it's going to lose interest, right? It's going to lose interest. They're going to lose interest because they're not getting a reaction. If you're not feeding something, if you don't put gas in your car, you're driving your car's driving just fine. Well, it's going to run out of gas at some point if you don't put gas back in the car. Consider yourself the car, or consider yourself the gas. You're the gas today. So if you're filling their tank with your reactivity, it's going to happen. And guess what? It's going to happen again. And it's going to get more exacerbated. And when you're not consistent with gray rocking, they know that they're chipping away at that rock, right? So if you gray rock and you're like, yes, I'm gray rocking. Great. I love that. Of course, it's going to be difficult for you in the beginning. You're not just going to hit this out the park. Hell, if you could do that, I'd be a multi-billionaire because I could give you all the answers instantly. It's not a real thing. So, but when you get consistent in it, you're going to possibly be called names. Oh my God. Gray rocks don't care. Find yourself a gray rock and call it every name in the book. Tell the people next door to you that you don't like the gray rock. Does the gray rock give a damn? Nope. Why does it work? Why does gray rocking, and again, we've been doing this a lot. We just didn't necessarily call it that. But it's psychological detachment. It's basically emotional detachment. Now, this is a good way, and this is what I learned in Buddhism. I practiced Buddhism for over 17 years, almost 18. It is connection, not attachment, right? So that's what we do. If you have emotional attachment to something, it's going to create a reactive response. But from a psychological detachment, what are they doing? What are they getting out of it? They're not getting anything out of it other than a little anger, right? That's not your problem. But you are psychologically detaching from that. You might need a little guidance. At least I know my clients aren't coming to me because they don't need guidance. They're coming to me because they do need guidance. So you might need a little bit of a roadmap, a little bit of a push, a little bit of direction, and that's great. But it works because there's a psychological detachment and emotional detachment. So now you realize those words are based in them. Their narcissism is not your problem. That's them. Don't put gasoline in their tank. Do not keep putting gasoline in the tank. That is not going to be good for you. Okay. Now, there's also a thing called reinforcement therapies. It's also a theory. So reinforcement theory, but then there's also therapies to kind of help you through it. Behaviors that are not reinforced, going back to what I just said, in the past you allowed it, they tend to diminish over time, right? So have you ever heard somebody say you're enabling that behavior? Okay? It's not about gray rocking right now, but you're enabling that behavior. You're enabling it because you fall in love with hope. Not hope like we should all have hope, but hope like, I hope that they're better. I hope that they do this, like a wishful thinking type thing. So you keep reinforcing it. Their manipulation, you're like, I'm going to be strong today, and then tomorrow you're not. Well, you just reinforce their behavior. So the reinforcement theory is behaviors that are not reinforced, they do tend to diminish over time. And reinforcement, believe it or not, is reactivity. If you are enforcing, right, or you're reinforcing, I should say, but if you're reinforcing that you're going to react, let me tell you, when people are in that headspace, they know. They may not be sitting there with wringing their hands talking about, I'm going to be in control, but they do know that if I ask this person this, they're going to do this. And if I guilt trip them and I pull out this sentence, guess what's going to happen? They're going to do what I want to do. Well, if you reinforce by emotionally detaching over a period of time that you're not going to react, well, now they're going to be like, yeah. Well, and this is the theory that I have, is what I do in my life. It's what I really want to encourage you to do. Stop running from your past. Stop running from the skeletons in your closet. Stop doing that. They're there. You did it. You said it. You did it. Where you start to have this loss of control is almost, let's call it the blackmail thing. Not necessarily where they're saying this, but if somebody's like, oh yeah, you better do this. Okay, I mean, that's all right. I wouldn't want them to know about blah, blah, blah. If you let that happen, they will continue to do that. They will continue to hold something over your head. They can only do that if you reinforce that they can. Now, we know cognitive behavioral therapy totally changes that. It influences the emotional cognitive responses. So does ERP, exposure therapy. So does mindfulness. So there's a combination of things that can help you on this journey. But essentially, you got to say, what is my insecurity? What is my insecurity? Why do I need to be understood from their perspective? Well, because you want to make it make sense. You want to say to yourself, well, that's wrong. Like, you hurt my feelings. Okay. Some people may not know that they're hurting your feelings. Great to bring it up. If you're dealing with someone who wants to hurt your feelings, they're going to be like, oh my God, okay, you're overreacting. Like, stop it. Or they'll say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But remember, you also annoyed me yesterday. Hold on, wait a minute. Did you just take your apology? Wait, that was never an apology. An apology is not, I'm sorry, but. Okay, I take that back. However, like, no. So that's how, again, going into the reinforcement, if you're seeking their why, if you're seeking all of that, you're going to constantly be reinforcing your insecurities, and they're going to know how to drive that bus, and you're going to be on that bus. You're going to be on that bus. You are pouring gas. Now it is plentiful. They have a steady flow of gasoline. They're never going to run out of gas. Ever. Now, this is where the emotional attachments come into play. Your resistance to gray rocking. One could be a fear of elevation. All right. Again, I want to tell you, a lot of people, when you are in a space of putting up boundaries and gray rocking, not everybody's going to like this. It can potentially lead to you can't argue. It takes two people to argue. Let them argue into a vacuum by themselves. It might escalate that. Now, if you worry about from a physical protection, well, that's a whole different topic, and you need to talk to the authorities and legal people. But I'm saying if you're worried about it, this goes into conflict. So go back to the fear of conflict and confrontation podcast. It might be very helpful for you with this. If you're afraid of it escalating, we know that that's a level of avoidance. So if we got to dig to the deeper root. Okay, again, if it feels physically dangerous, we're going to have to call in some law enforcement. But if this is just somebody's going to yell, let them yell to the emptiness. You walk away. Okay, again, if you're not reinforcing it, where are they going? Okay, guilt and obligation. Oh my God, this is a big one. For some odd reason, well, we know what the reasons are, but for some reason, you seem to think that you are obligated to just take whatever people say. Somebody saves you from a wreck. I don't know. They save you. They come in time. Your life is saved because of them. It's your sister. Okay. You do not, for the rest of your natural born life on this planet, need to keep repaying her back. A thank you. I love you. I'm going to pay your car payment today. That's amazing. That's great. I love that for you. But you're not going to let anybody hold that over your head. Well, what do you mean you're not going to come watch your niece and nephew? Okay, fine. My God. You can't even come over and do that. Forgive me. I just saved your life. You're like, holy shit, are we still there 10 years ago? And don't let that behavior happen. Gray rock the hell out of that. Don't react. Yeah, okay. Leave it be. You have this weird sense of guilt that if, like, I got to be polite. Okay, that's one of the biggest things that damaged us growing up at a certain age and maybe even now. Be polite. Yeah, okay, don't be an asshole on purpose. You're going to be considered that way anyway by people who aren't in that healing space, but don't do it intentionally. Being polite was also said to us when we were little kids. Oh, go hug Uncle Billy. And you're uncomfortable because you're like, I feel awkward. Oh, just go over there. That's the polite thing to do. Oh my God, no. No. So you have this weird sense of guilt and obligation that you can't gray rock somebody. And stop saying you can't do it because it's your mom. You can't do it because it's your kid, adult kid. You can. You can. Do not ever have guilt by putting your mental health in play here and in the forefront. And that's where the insecurity, the abandonment, definitely the abandonment, the avoidance, the anxious, all of these things are going to come into play for you, which is why you're resistant to doing it. Also, that goes into the social norms. That goes to that polite thing. Oh, be nice, be considerate. Yes, be gracious. Grateful is the foundation of life. Appreciate people, be thankful. But you know what? Just because you're being polite, that can also mean that somebody is running through you because they know that you're going to be the person who's not going to be reactive. You're not going to respond, and not in a good way. I don't mean respond like I'm just going to be quiet and gray rock. You're not going to respond. You're going to react. Reactions, responses, two very different things. Responding is like, okay, let me take a minute. Like it's a pause. Maybe you have to go pee. Maybe you got to go in the bathroom. And you sit here and say, okay, let me gather my thoughts. Response. Reaction is on the fly. So you have that because your social norms, everybody in the family put family first. So now, because you're putting family first, you're supposed to take any bullshit that somebody sells you. Well, because that's the polite thing to do. It's your mom. Okay, if you feel uncomfortable, listen, every day is not going to be a walk in the park. We all have bad days. You do, I do, every bad moments of the day. We all do. That does not give you permission to take that out on somebody else. And if somebody has been allowed over their lifetime to continue to manipulate situations, of course they're going to continue to do that. Now, here's the other thing. You too have to accept that somebody may gray rock you. And they're allowed to do that. They may perceive you as manipulative or toxic. And before you say, I'm not that way, sometimes if that person seems toxic to you, there's a good chance you're toxic to them. You're going to have to accept that. You're going to have to accept, this is radically accepting, it isn't always about them. Sometimes it's about you. Sometimes it's your constant chronic complaining. It's the expectations that you're seeking. It's the control that you're trying to have. And somebody's like, I am done. And there's no reaction. There's none of that stuff. You don't get to gaslight them and say, well, wait a minute, I'm not toxic. Like, what are you talking about? No, you're being a gaslighter. A person is allowed to have a feeling on what and who is beneficial for them. And you don't have to agree with it. So just keep in mind, the gray rock theory is so amazing for you. I love it. I mean, I don't really have to use it tons anymore, but I've used it for many years. And if I need to, I'll use it again. Multiple times. That's second nature to me. That comes, I am so much better at responding. You're not getting a reaction out of me because I control that and you control that. But if somebody's going to gray rock you, I always say this, if someone needs to grow and I'm not in their life to grow or you're not in their life to grow, that's fine. You want people to be a better person for themselves, at least if you're out of your ego. If you're in your ego, and somebody's harmed you or hurt, I don't mean physically, but somebody's like hurt your feelings or betrayed you, and now you're on this mission to go into some revenge and all that stuff. Oh my gosh, no. You're doing the opposite of gray rocking. The complete total opposite. Now, self-reflection. You got to do some self-reflection here. Am I being the one? And again, compassion. So let me throw that out there. If you answer yes to these questions, it's okay. Be compassionate, but we want to work. It's not okay to do them on an ongoing basis. It's okay that you're aware of it and that we can work around that now. That's amazing. Okay. But you have to say, what am I doing? And don't go into this, well, how am I toxic? Like, no, don't do that. Just say, okay, what is it that I'm doing that may be perceived as manipulative? Are you defensive? Manipulation. Being defensive is a part of manipulation. It really is. It really is. Right? And so withholding things, withholding sex, withholding love, withholding money, withholding communication, manipulation. So is that something that you're doing? Are you guilt tripping someone? Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, damn. Okay, I thought you were going to come to the barbecue, so I got those special burgers you want, but I guess I can put them in the refrigerator. Oh my God, that's gaslighting. I mean, I'm sorry, that's manipulation. So then you have to say, let me be self-aware. And then if the answers to those questions are yes, that's what you do, compassion, and say, oh my God, wait, why am I doing that? Okay, well, let me go into it and go deeper. Go into your roots. Because again, it isn't everybody else. Not all the time. And 95% is the way that you react to things in your mindset. Now, open communication comes into play here, right? You don't just start off gray rocking. You don't just go, I'm gray rocking. No, you try to have some communication. I always say this to my clients. If you're the one that's on this healing journey and you started this healing journey before them, yeah, you are going to have to kind of pull, if you want the relationship, you are going to have to kind of, all right, be a little patient, give communication, say, okay, because you're here and they're here, you're not better, but you have more tools. So if you have more tools, you can't really get upset with the person who doesn't have the tools, even though you have them. That's expecting you out of people. So you can try open communication, but always remember it's the delivery system. Okay? Oh, you made me, never you statements. No. You statements are no good. I feel. Okay? Now, you have this open communication on one side and it's not there. You're going to have to do some gray rocking. Person's going to say, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't do this. Your initial reaction is going to be like, well, what do you mean? Holy hell, all you do is manipulate me. Gray rock. Respect boundaries. Right? Because this is a little section about you. Respect their boundaries. You may want more from them. You want more out of the relationship, the friendship. Valid. Those are your desires. Have you communicated them? Okay, you have. Did you ask the person? Did you physically ask that person verbally? These are sort of my needs and desires. Is that something that you can do? They might not want to. They might not. So if they tell you, no, this is what I'm going to do, you're allowed your feelings. If you feel FOMO, fear of missing out. If you feel personally, it's a personalization bias, you want to go in and say, well, why am I feeling that way? They're not making you feel that way. What is their actions and words? What is it? So this way you're respecting their boundaries. So this way that helps you also know when to accept gray rock. Well, because regardless if you like it or not, if they're gray rocking, they're gray rocking, and good for them. Good for them. That means that they're protecting their self. Like they're protecting yourself. And it's funny because that reinforcement therapy was a book, an author named Skinner in 1953, and it's the science of human behavior. It's like one of the things that you actually look at when you're studying human behavior. Yeah, 1953. All right. So you're talking many, many years ago. These things are still effective. Some things are 1922. Some things are 2002. The reality is and I say this all the time, there's only about 5 or 6 ways in the entire lifetime that you can work on that's going to get you that at least inner peace and boundaries and confidence. There's only like 5 or 6. So you can listen to me and 57 other thought leaders might be delivering that information differently. Some more subtle, some like me, a little bit more harsh. At the end of the day, it's the same information. Because no one's reinventing the wheel. No one is the gatekeeper of mental health. No one is the gatekeeper of self-improvement. No one. So I love that you look and you're looking and you're trying to understand, because you know what? We all understand differently, and it might take a certain approach, and then there might take a different approach, and then there might just be an aha moment. So just be careful, because if you're looking for, well, what if I gray rock and this? Okay, now you're Googling gray rocking, and now you're listening to 68 TikToks and 43 about gray rocking. I'm telling you what it is. It's a technique. I'm telling you what it is, a technique to handle interactions with manipulative and toxic interactions. That's what it is. And to sort of make it even easier, non-reactivity. Gray rock. Go find yourself a gray rock. Go buy a gray rock. Go dig in the dirt and find yourself a gray rock. And if you need a visual to remind yourself, set it on your desk. Set it by the end of the table. Put it in your pocket. Have 98 gray rocks. I don't care. Whatever you need to do, have your screensaver, gray rock screensaver. But remember, I want you to really utilize your fear of gray rocking, to utilize that to go deeper with what your issues are. Your issues are not the boss. No. I mean, you might have some issues with that's not it. Go deeper with why you're either taking it personal, why you feel affected, go deeper. Again, fear of escalation. It might escalate. Yeah. But if you're fearing all of these things, and they might happen, they also might not, you're going to stay in a freeze response. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell them about my boundaries and I'm going to ask them if they can do it. Then you panic because you're like, oh my God, what if they can't do it? Well, then that's good, because then you understand that because then you'll go, well, they could do it. Yeah, they don't want to. Don't want to is plenty of good reason. So you have to ask yourself, are you not gray rocking and not just flat? You gotta be flat. Are you not doing that because your ego's in play? Like, you hurt my feelings, or my feelings are hurt. Now you got to acknowledge that. No, that's ego. You don't have to have these people in your life, right? Like, you don't have to just take it and be like, whatever. But the more you try to avoid, the more you avoid gray rocking, the more you're putting gasoline in that tank again. I promise you that all of this defending and all of this talking and all of these reactions, it's not going to give you the outcome that you seek. You are not going to get the fulfillment that you keep looking for. Radical acceptance. Radical acceptance. So again, think of gray rocking as just and you can use it for anything, right? Gray rocking is the technique term. You can say reading glasses. Be the reading glasses. Be the quarter. Be whatever. But it's not reactive. So what you need to do is just have a visual, right? Because the big thing is, let that car run out of gas. You might be upset that it ran out of gas. You might feel like, well, I really like this car. Like, I really wanted to stay in this car. I really love this car. Well, I love that you love the car, but there's a level of attachment there. There's a lot of dealerships out there. There's a lot of cars out there. Why are you worried about this one? Why are you worried about that one car, that one person not being in your life? Go to the attachment. That is attachment. That is a form of attachment. So that's where you can start analyzing it and saying, am I afraid to gray rock? Because what if everybody goes? Then let them go. Let them go. They are not the only people on this planet. You know, I've done the Broadway in 42nd Street theory with you guys before. It's my little theory. Is if you're in the middle of Manhattan, but you're downtown, you're on Broadway, you're with all this shiny lights, everything is bright, there's people, it's so fun and overwhelming, but it's great. And you're like, oh my God, I love New York City so much. Okay, that's like a few blocks. If I put you in a helicopter and I take you above 10,000 feet, you realize that's just this one. Oh, you're like, oh, I can see the lights. Oh, that's so pretty. Oh, wow, there's a lot of streets over here. Yeah. There's way more people than what's going on right now. And it's a strategy that you can use across the board. Okay, I'm not saying don't tell somebody what your desires and needs are. Don't try to communicate with someone who is not committed to making a change or listening. A lot of these people that you're not gray rocking with will only ever see it a certain way. They are not interested in any kind of logic at all. So the only thing that you can do, well, I guess you can do anything, but the thing that is the most beneficial and most healthiest for you, is gray rock. Gray rock. Now some of you are going to have to work on your gray rock face, right? Because you can be like, all right, well, I don't say anything. And now you're rolling your eyes and you're, okay. Like, so you also want to practice your facial gray rocking. Right? So let's do one at a time. So even if you're going to have resting bitch face or you're going to have super transparent face, let's at least start from the gray rock perspective. And remember, you are going to get other color rocks thrown at you. They want the reaction. They're going to try to cut you down. They're going to try to play on your insecurities. They're going to try to play on your weaknesses. Maybe it's your kid. Maybe it's your kid. And I don't know what it is, but you gray rocked about something. They did not like that. And now they try to go deep because you're not giving reactions. Oh, well, I don't even know how you even kept your kid that long. All the way you used to be growing up with that kid? My God. I don't even know how that kid's here. Man, I know you've done damage to that kid. They want a reaction. They want a reaction. They're going to say nasty things. They're going to try to hurt your feelings. Not everybody, but that's at escalation. And if you're resistant to that, you're never going to be a gray rock. And you're going to say, I don't know, nobody respects me. Everybody talks to me a certain way. Because the moment that you start to stand up for yourself and they go a little bit deeper and they try to cut you off of the legs here, they're just going to keep going down and down and down. And they may get ruthless. Oh God, they may get so ruthless. They may get so nasty. But guess what? You don't have to stay around for that. Hang up the phone. Walk away. Hang up the phone. Don't subject yourself to things because you're trying to get your point across. It's never going to serve you. So that's the technique of gray rocking. We're going to go over on Patreon and talk about it, but I really want you to practice it. And I actually would love for you to get, you can even get river rocks or whatever. You can get any color, but I think it's good to have the idea of the gray rock. Let it remind you listen, if you got to walk around and have that thing in your hand, down your bra, in your pants, I don't care where you have it, just hold it. And every time you go, oh my God, I just want to lose my mind. That person, I can't stand them. I want to throat punch them. Gray rock. You are the gray rock. You are important. Even though you're a rock, you're very important. So don't let anybody keep cracking open those rocks, because sometimes they're going to keep doing that and it's going to be really hard for you to find that repair. Buy the gray rock. Focus on the gray rock. Draw it. See it. And then practice that behavior and practice receiving that. They don't have to explain to you why they're gray rocking you. But yeah, so now you know. Now you can go to the rock quarry, get about 56 rocks, and start really putting your health and your priority in the main front here. And it is going to protect you. It is going to help you. And it is most definitely going to help you build confidence. Check it out.